Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something truly special, the Constitution of India. But we're not going to treat it like some dusty old legal book. Nope. Instead, we're going to look at it as a contract, a really powerful living agreement between the government and every single one of us.
And the heart of this contract? It's right here, in the words of its main architect, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. This isn't just a nice quote, it's practically a formula. It's telling us that liberty, equality, and fraternity aren't just separate ideas. They have to work together, in perfect balance to create a society that's truly just. And that's the big vision we're exploring.
So who's the referee? Who makes sure this vision is upheld? Well, that would be the Supreme Court of India. It's the ultimate guardian of the Constitution. When we talk about all these rights and promises, this is the institution that's tasked with making sure they're real and protected for every single citizen.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the Constitution's core promise. Then we'll break down the key parts of this contract, your fundamental rights, the state's guiding principles, and of course, your duties as a citizen. And finally, we'll see how it all fits together.
First up, that core promise. The preamble of the Constitution. It's a big deal. It declares that it will secure justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity for all its citizens. And these aren't just words, They are the four massive pillars that Indian democracy is built on.
All right, let's get to the first major part of our contract, your fundamental rights. The best way to think about these is as legally binding promises that the state makes directly to you. They are the absolute bedrock of your freedom as a citizen.
So, what are fundamental rights exactly? Well, they're the things that are considered absolutely essential for you to live a life with dignity. They're so important that they're not just written down somewhere, they are directly protected and enforced by the Constitution itself. And here's the crucial part. They basically tell the government what it cannot do, putting real limits on its power.
Now, this idea of fundamental rights didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's been evolving for centuries. You've got the Magna Carta back in 1215, which limited a king's power, then the French and American revolutions, all the way up to the UN's Universal Declaration of Human Rights. India's founders were looking at this whole global story and drawing inspiration from it. So, the Indian Constitution organizes these big promises into 6 main buckets. These are your 6 fundamental rights. Let's do a quick run-through of what each one is all about.
First, you've got the right to equality. Simple enough. Everyone's equal in the eyes of the law, and the state can't discriminate. Then there's the right to freedom, which is actually a whole bundle of rights, like free speech, the right to gather peacefully and to move around. And third, the right against exploitation, which protects you from horrible things like forced labor and human trafficking.
The next 3 are just as important. The right to freedom of religion, which gives you the liberty to practice your faith. Then you have cultural and educational rights, which are so key for protecting India's incredible diversity. And finally, we get to the one that's kind of like the key that unlocks all the others, the right to constitutional remedies.
This right is basically the enforcement button. It's what gives all the other rights their teeth. It means that if any of your fundamental rights are stepped on, you can go straight to the high courts or even the Supreme Court and say, hey, fix this.
Dr. Ambedkar himself called this right the heart and soul of the Constitution. And why is that? Because think about it, without a way to enforce them, rights are just nice words on a piece of paper. This right is what makes them real, powerful, and something you can actually use.
Okay, so we've seen the state's promises to you, but now let's flip it and look at what the state aims to do for society. These are the directive principles of state policy. The easiest way to think of them is like the government's official mission statement, or as constitutional to-do list.
So, what's the big difference between these and fundamental rights? This is really important. Fundamental rights are enforceable. You can go to court if they're violated. Directive principles, not so much. Rights are negative. They stop the state from doing things. Principles are positive. They tell the state what it should be doing to build a better, more just society.
And this to-do list is incredibly wide-ranging. It pulls from all sorts of philosophies. You have socialist ideas like equal pay for equal work, Gandhian ideas like empowering village governments, and liberal ideas like protecting the environment. These principles really paint a picture of the kind of nation the Constitution wants to build over time.
All right, we've covered what the state guarantees you and what it aims to do for you. But, a contract is a two-way street. And that brings us to the third piece of the puzzle, your fundamental duties. This is your side of the bargain.
Just like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel said, rights and duties, they really go hand in hand.
The idea is pretty simple. Being a citizen of a country that gives you all these incredible rights also comes with a set of responsibilities.
Now, fun fact, these duties weren't in the original Constitution. They were actually added back in 1976. There are 11 of them, and they basically act as a moral and civic code of conduct. I saw one source put it perfectly. It said rights and duties are just two sides of the same coin.
So what kind of duties are we talking about? Well, things like respecting the Constitution, protecting the unity of the country, defending the nation if you're ever called upon to do so, protecting our environment, and developing a scientific mindset. They're all reminders of our shared responsibility in this whole project of nation building.
So, we have these three huge concepts: rights, principles, and duties. How in the world do they all work together? This is where you see the real genius of the whole framework. It's all about creating this delicate, dynamic balance.
It really does work like this big interconnected system. You've got the Constitution laying out the rules of the game. You've got the judiciary acting as the referee. And your fundamental rights are a core part of the playbook, all working together to create a fair and just society.
Let's just sum it up one last time. Your rights put limits on the state's power. The principles give the state a roadmap for where to go. And your duties give you, the citizen, a role to play. Together, they create this incredible, balanced framework for the entire nation.
And that brings us right back to where we started. This entire framework, this beautiful balance of rights, principles, and duties, that is the citizen's contract. It's not some dusty old document. It's a living, breathing agreement between you and your country, and it gets renewed every single day.
Which leaves us with one final big question to think about. The Constitution gives us this amazing blueprint for a just society, but, a blueprint is only as good as the people building from it. So the real question is, how do we, as citizens and as a state, actually uphold this delicate balance in our day-to-day lives?